Hello, welcome to our Ask Me Anything session. Today with David Kreil.
Hi.
And, well, my humble self.
Yes. Michael Kopp.
Fantastic. Thank you, David. So actually, maybe let me introduce David for all of you who may not know him. I have actually met David a long time ago when he was still at university, and I remember him working actually on identifying bias in sequence information in the biomedical field, and he did that very successfully even with Max Perutz. He did a PhD under Sir David Mackay, who is a leading expert in model validation, and anyone on the call who's ever maybe looked at information theory, there's a brilliant online book which he wrote. David then went into academia, became a professor, actually held 2 professorships at one point in Warwick and at Boku, where he still works in Vienna. He's a key partner to the US FDA and also on the organizing committee of CAMDA. One personal note I can make about David is that, and that's actually very annoying, he's so nice I can't even be jealous.
Thank you very much for the super kind introduction, Michael. Conversely, I know Michael while I was a student, and he's one of those very few people who can actually connect theoretical advances with really seeing the high impact and how these things can be applied. And I've always been very pleased when we had an opportunity to work together, and this was really also what got us together to start this institute about 2 years ago. Also identifying an opportunity to do things that we couldn't do in our respective separate tracks. So Michael was originally, or perhaps I should say, is still an amazing mathematician who not just works on the theoretical side, but applies this both in applied mathematics and beyond. He was super successful doing this in Cambridge and then went on a special fellowship to Bordeaux, where he worked with top people in his area, and was then offered a position at Oxford, which was highly prestigious, but so unfriendly that he had to turn it down and go somewhere where they paid him something like 50 times more, not because he was in for the money, but because in academia, it can be sometimes really hard to do what you want to do because you cannot get the resources to do it. And so after him branching out into areas of high responsibility in the real world, while me pottering around in ivory tower, we then turn circle to join forces to do what we think will have the biggest impact on society, which is take the way academia works, but apply it to real world problems. And particularly in our field, where AI is now drastically determined and driven by the data that feed the models that we're training, this is becoming more and more important because without real world data, we all end up analyzing computer games. And that's really what was the founding idea behind this institute, that we wanted to take real world industrial scale data and solve relevant problems with modern AI tools, modern machine learning. So I see that I'm talking even more when I don't see myself talking. So I think I should shut up now and we should move to what this session is really about, which is other people asking us questions about what we do, how to interact with us, because we really pride ourselves in setting up a place for exchange. And we would all like to welcome you very much to reach out to us and engage with us.
Yes, thank you very much for attending. I think we should also mention we have a third founding director, who's Sepp Hochreiter, who I guess needs no introduction in this area. And as you rightly said, David, IARAI was born also out of the wish to solve really big societal problems with industrial scale data. That is normally hard to get one's hands on in academic circles. So. And we should say that IARAI is independent, open, and is an academic institution. So we intend to publish and do publish all our results. We have a question actually on here about research statement. What would you expect? Is there any instruction that you want us to follow? David, would you be able to field that? That comes
sure.
from
Yes.
feed or feed
yes. Yes, I'm happy to fill people in on this, and I understand that this might be an alien concept for people who've not gone through the British academic system. So there, it's very common for the brightest people after their PhD to apply to be independent rather than just part of a group. So what they do at this point is they write up a research proposal where they say what they want to do in the next 2 to 3 years, typically 3 years. Of course, based on their interests, but also based on their strengths. So there should be a link to their previous track record where they show what they've done really well and how they want to build on this to become an independent young researcher. And we want to basically provide the same venue also in Vienna. So same freedom, but much better food. And also, I would like to say that we are always open to take people who start on a research fellowship onto a tenure track later. So we would really like to encourage everyone who feels they have an idea in which direction their research could go to write up a research proposal. And that should basically cover what they want to do, why they want to do it, why they think that they're the right person to do it. And typically you map out a plan, and you would like to probably also cover what you do when things don't work out as you thought they would. So typically plan what you want to do and some contingency plans as well. So that's what I would recommend.
Mm-hmm. We have a very interesting question here from someone called Henry. What will IARAI be doing next year? Are there specific milestones or focus areas? I can, if you like, start that with that. I think we have 3 main research areas. And I can actually maybe share my slides. That might actually be of help. And I think our 3 areas are world simulation. And I mean, anyone who's seen the advances in reinforcement learning will recognize that. So advances in control theory have really given rise to the hope that you can solve very complex problems like self-driving cars, automating map making, and so on and so forth, by having essentially an AI agent learning the hard stuff by itself in a real-world simulator. And I think we're at the stage where it turns out that really building such a simulator on real-world data may not be such an easy endeavor. And I think many people knew that this wasn't the case. So one thing we want to do and we set out to do, and that's one of our research directions, is how can we solve that in a real world setting on real world data, and we're pursuing that also on the data that we have. Another one is prediction through description, and here, I mean, the catchphrase that we put here is features are of interest in their own right. That's a catch-all. I mean, you will all know, you train models, they the features encode really what you want, and it's still mysterious exactly how they do it. So if you then predict the outcome, how sure are you about this? So this captures, or is a capture all for generative methods that we look in, so GANs or other generative methods. We are analyzing also maybe more from a Bayesian viewpoint. How sure are you about it? What are the failure modes and so on? That includes also point clouds where we can see, or kind of embeddings where we can see how we can represent data within features. And maybe if you've, although that also plays into another section, also maybe the way that Hopfield networks encode things in their memory, and can you actually do something with the encoding in itself? So this is kind of a catch-all for these areas, and yeah, that's the other direction. And maybe David, you want to take the last one?
Sure, and I'm actually quite pleased to see that Sepp Hochheit is also on the call, because he's really the person who's been advancing the scientific way of looking at machine learning and deep neural networks, and has actually contributed some amazing papers this year, both to our understanding of transformers and also performers, as we will learn some more about in tonight's fireside talk. And more generally, our aim is to move away from the way that the modern machine learning currently is mostly employed, which is really very much an empirical field. So most work really works through trial and error. And we want to address questions like, what architecture should a neural network actually be to work in a particular data type? or how can one combine different networks, or maybe prior information and new data effectively. So those are the questions we're interested in, looking at the effects of noise, robustness, and so on. Yeah. So this is the theoretical part, which should lead us to the point where we can actually apply networks with confidence that they're going to work. Maybe now is a good time to return to the questions in the chat. I saw that there was a question regarding internships at the Institute. Now anything that is at the student or intern level, applications would work like this, that you first identify someone at the Institute that you want to work with. So if you cannot work independently, if you want direct supervision, you identify a person that you want to work with. And then in your proposal, you would basically directly refer to that person and what you would be hoping to do with them. So that was one question. Then there was another question regarding the recruitment process and deadlines for tenured faculty. So that I can answer very quickly. There is no deadline. This is an open call. We invite the best people to apply to us anytime. And the process is like anywhere else. There's a search committee, and once you apply, people will look through this to see to what degree you fit well with the Institute, and we will reach out to you for conversation. Okay.
Very nice.
Do you want to go for the next question? Sorry. Yes.
Yeah. No. You go. Let me see. I think can I see another question? Wait. I think this was an opportune time to maybe notice that being also independent means that the processes we have to go through can be very nimble. So we can act relatively quickly, and of course we set our own processes, but we can be flexible in many ways.
Yes, that's right. So we're a small research institute, which gives us the opportunity to move fast. So if you've ever dealt with the university, you will know what that means. And regarding the last question, what's the difference between a research fellowship and a tenured position? These are at opposing ends of the seniority spectrum. So typically a research fellowship is something that you would apply for as a junior researcher who takes the first steps into independence. Then tenure track would be a step beyond that, where you say, okay, I'm already established and I would like to have a permanent position. So you would start at the Institute and then maybe be evaluated after 3 years or after 5 years to see whether you join as permanent faculty. And tenured position is basically from you applying either from already a tenured position or from another semi-senior position where you want to become tenured, meaning permanent faculty at our institute. So when I say seniority, that doesn't necessarily mean age. There are some people that get very old and don't achieve that much, and there are other people that are really moving the field already at a young age. So don't be shy, but be realistic in terms of what you're asking for. If you haven't published anything yet, you cannot ask for a permanent position, obviously. But that said, don't be shy, just apply. If you apply to the wrong track, we will shift you around. So we would just like to encourage you, if you want to work with us, to get in touch.
Mm-hmm. I think Michelle had another question, which was, would you mind sharing about total compensation or income for research fellowship and tenure track position? Is the income enough for a family, including me, my spouse, and 2 kids, in case my spouse does not work?
Oh, the answer is yes.
Yeah.
The point is this, remuneration is a question of negotiation with everyone, but typically salary levels in Austria, even if you go to a regular university or so, that you can well live on that. I mean, not with diamond encrusted watches maybe, but you can live well on that, even on a standard academic salary. And the Institute prides itself on paying more than that. Yeah. So I think you shouldn't have to sell out because of money. If you want to do science, come and work with us.
Yeah, and I think it's a decent standard of living. There is actually, we should also maybe mention that Vienna is on the, I think, UN Life Index, where every city is ranked, is actually consistently amongst the top 3. So it's a very nice place, I have to say. And as you said, very affordable. I have another question from Ilse Kretschmer. How many people are currently working at the Institute? How much growth in terms of people do you expect in the next year?
Oh, that's a difficult question.
Yeah. So I think there's maybe exact number is there are actually many people affiliated.
Yeah.
And so that number can be very large. I think initially we wanted the size to be roughly 30 full-time staff also. But as I said, it can be, I mean, we are very flexible in our arrangements. So we have very senior people in their field and recognized leaders in their field who are affiliated and who run part of their group within IARAI. So it's difficult to say how exactly you count. So I hope that's a good answer to the question. Could you share more details about international collaboration visiting professorships, I guess? That is from Rose Yu.
You want to take it, Michael, or should I?
Sure. No, why don't you? I mean,
yeah. So it may sound a little bit like a stuck record, but that's because it's a key theme of us. We're flexible, so we will do things that make sense for the science. So if from your position it makes sense to have a shared appointment between your current university, say, or wherever you work at the moment, and us, and there's an opportunity to do things together, we will find a way to do that. Typically, that would involve you visiting regularly, and whether you spend a few % of your time here or a large amount of your time here will very much depend on what type of work you want to do with us, how you want to interact with the other people here, and also what your situation allows. I mean, we have people, for instance, that are visiting professors and they're based at the institution in Vienna. I mean, for them, of course, it's really easy. They just pop by every 2 or 3 days, and there's a lot of regular casual interaction. Now, if you're based in Australia, say, that'll be hard. So we would set something up where, say, you fly over every few weeks or every couple of months, and then stay here for a week or two, and also get an opportunity to interact. We can also do things where you say you come for half a year, and then you leave again, and then you maybe come back in a year later. So we're very flexible on these things. And the main question is, what do you want to do with us? And how shall we do it? So by all means, please get in touch.
Fantastic. There's a question from Martin Schrimp, which I can take if you will.
Yes,
if you want to do it. Are faculty expected to be ML, so machine learning exclusively, or is there any interest for example, machine learning plus computational neuroscience? I guess it's it's the broken record theme again. I think in the end we can do whatever makes sense, right? And you know, it depends on how interesting the project is and how maybe it can also use the natural advantage that we have, the data that we have from essentially geospatial data and data that here technology can provide for us. So, you know, definitely we would be interested in nearly everything, but it needs to kind of also make sense. So it wouldn't be a no. It's also not an immediate yes, but we're interested in those questions. I don't know whether you saw the fireside chat with Sepp Hochreiter and Dima Krotov. There is clearly a very large neuroscience flavor in that. So I think questions that pertain to what is memory, are there more biologically inspired models that one could use to actually solve real world problems or achieve state of the art? That's something that definitely interests us. So I'm sorry, Martin, if that's a bit of on the fence answer, but I would encourage you, if you're still listening, to try it out. Send us something, and then we can take it from there. Michelle says, I'm sorry if I missed this, but if I applied for research fellowship now, can I have a chance to move to tenured faculty after I finish the fellowship?
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, probably not directly from research fellowship to tenured position, but probably from research fellowship to tenured track. That's the classical progression in academia, but if you're really good, you can be even faster. Yeah. How do we evaluate progress? I think that is a very interesting question. By publication or product? Our product is insight. Our product is knowledge. Our product is collaboration between researchers. So if you set up an amazing new research community where people interact with one another and you publish a bit less, that's a product, if you like. Yeah. If you have super theoretical papers with no tangible thing behind it, the product is the knowledge. So yes, we will evaluate progress based on what comes out of your stay here, what you do, what research you do, how you interact with others. That's what we're interested in.
And maybe one thing, and I think we mentioned it, but I would like to stress, so the ethos behind the Institute really is to tackle real world problems and really tough ones, and to think big. So I think it's interesting how many advances machine learning has done, even though it is in inverted commas black box. But it's also interesting how many problems that were hitherto not within the realm of being able to be tackled, you can actually now have a go at. And I think sometimes it really is a mental thing to kind of think a bit bigger, and we would like to support that. So that's obviously also more risky, but I think we are also a place that embraces that.
That's an excellent point, because we'd rather you try something ambitious and fail at it rather than do boring, safe stuff that leads to an incremental paper like 10,000 others out there. I mean, that's not to say that sometimes really cool advances cannot be achieved this way. You might have a number of small incremental papers, and then maybe the fifth one really changes how people work and how people see the field. But we're perfectly fine if you try something and it doesn't work, as long as you're trying in a smart way. Yeah, and you're not alone. You're here in an environment of other people to discuss. And maybe after you've been trying the same thing for 7 years and it's not working, maybe you get some feedback. Maybe you want to try something else. But you know, some things just take a while. It's fine.
Oh, wait a second. There is another question. Rose, you said glad we're on the same page. So that's nice. Thanks, Rose. Good. Are there any more questions? Otherwise, I can. Here we go. Michelle says, my research focus on applied machine learning like speech NLP. Do I have a chance to do the theory research, or you only consider theory AI research? I think, if I'm very honest, we use the word AI in a loose sense, like the press uses it, and not maybe in the sense as George Forrester would have defined it. So in many ways, we're talking about machine learning, and yes, NLP would be part of that. So sorry if we were confusing. I guess these days, what used to be AI is AGI, but yes. So sorry for maybe not being as precise for the audience at hand.
And I don't know, Sepp, can you hear me? Yes,
hi.
Very good. I just thought maybe Sepp wants to say a little bit about opportunities for students, maybe related or not related to Alice, because we had some questions about whether people could apply for internships or whether they could go for what they could do after their master if they come in as a PhD student. Maybe you want to say a few words?
David, thanks. At the beginning, I was not able to unmute myself, but now I can do it. Let me start with something else. Here we have a big opportunity to push research to frontiers which are not possible at universities. We have access to data and resources like compute resources we cannot do at the university. I would tackle things like climate change, mobility and traffic, weather, earth science in general. And we have access to data we never would have at the university. Another field I would like to go into is health. There was a recent achievement, I don't know whether somebody heard about it, it was AlphaFold. And it's only doable with these big things if you have the compute and the data resources. Here, this institute can help not to build a product you want to sell, but a product which David called knowledge, doing poor research and push the frontiers of AI research. And therefore, it's a huge opportunity for everybody to join us and really to do something which is not possible somewhere else. Think about OpenAI, DeepMind, think in these directions. David, you said there's a connection to Alice. Perhaps I don't know whether everybody knows about it. It's a European network of machine learning and intelligent systems. It's about excellence in machine learning. Today we had our assembly, 2-yearly assembly, and IARAI is part of this Alice network. And in this network, there's also Oxford, Cambridge, ETH, Paris, Tübingen, Berlin, you name it. And we have an international or European-wide network where we exchange also PhD students, stuff like this. And you also can join and enter the Alice network, but there you have to go to Cambridge or to ETH or somewhere for half a year. That's a must if you want to join it via the Alice network. That's possible to join resources, to join forces, to tackle the newest research topics which come up. This would be on a PhD level, but you can join also the Alice network on a postdoc level. Also, this is possible, or even on a fellow level. IARAI is part of this network, of this Alice network, which is for excellence in machine learning across Europe.
Thank you so much, Seb.
Yes, couldn't have said it better.
we invite students to come and really enjoy working with us. The idea of networking that is part of Alice is very much at the heart of what the Institute does. I may answer the next question that we got on the chat by Ilona regarding what are preferable qualifications for a research fellow position: programming, having research papers, independence in doing science. And I would say you definitely need some independence if you want to be a research fellow, because of course you can interact with everyone, but you need to have a rough idea of what you want to do, and you need to spell it out in your proposal. But everything else, how much programming skills you need or how much you have published already, will depend on the research that you want to do. Much of the skills that you need to build models are things that you learn on the job. So if you come with a good technical training from some discipline, you should be able to pick it up fairly quickly. It's not that we would only work with people who have done this already before. If you're good in computer science, theoretical physics, even, if you're good in biology and you have a strong technical interest, by all means. There's another question where I think you can best answer, Michael, regarding what type of data we have access to. I suppose the question is the real world large scale data.
Yeah, so real world large scale data, we have a partnership with Here Technology. They're our data sponsor, and we have access to actually what gave rise to the T4C competition data, for instance. Hundreds of millions of ProPoints. So these are vehicle movements that you can see from GPS traces of vehicles, of course gridded in the sense that makes it privacy conscious. So you can't actually work out back which vehicle went where. Here has large amounts of data because they are a location intelligence company, used to be a traditional digital map maker, now also moving into all sorts of other areas which come about also for self-driving cars. I mean, the question of the simulation or what role a map or a more high definition map plays is being worked out as we speak. So there's a large amount of these kind of data sets around, including LiDAR points, even mobile access point maps, and so on and so forth. So there are large amounts of data, which I think is relatively unique. I mean, of course, other people have that too, but maybe not in this quantity for academic research. And I think it would be amazing to understand these data sources and data sets in the academic community, where we, and obviously Here, believes this is the only way you will ever be able to handle this kind of data in the future or through machine learning.
Perhaps, Michael, you should also mention they were augmented, they were completed by environmental data, by weather data, air pollution data.
Correct.
Also, a thing where we want to go is perhaps smart cities. To build AI agents which can control the traffic in the city, or can control the waste handling in a city. All these kind of things. Also things like hydrology, remote sensing data. There's a lot going on. Even we thought about having this social media data. Where are people connecting to some social media entry points, with the idea to locate people in a city where they are on what daytime. All this kind of data we are currently collecting. We want to build big models. And another aspect Michael forgot to mention, they are building a big simulation environments, because right now AI is struggling with one big problem. There's this reality gap. We are building good models on toy examples, like OpenAI is playing Dota, DeepMind is playing StarCraft, but these are games and they're playing chess and Go. Hey, but we need some solution for the real world. But to bring the AI solutions to the real world, we have to build simulations. And Michael and his team also built a simulation environment where all these AI agents can be tested, can be optimized, can be seen whether they work. And that's a big opportunity to try out, let's say, like reinforcement learning agents, which you never would let on the street. We never would let them control a factory or a whole city, but we are building, Michael with his team are building simulation environments where we can test it out, and then if they're working, bring them to the real world. And stuff like this you never can do at the university, because you don't have the resources, you don't have the software engineer building for you this test environments. And it's a huge opportunity to come up with crazy ideas and really test it and then bring it to the real world.
Yep. Totally agreed. Thank you, Seb. Very good.
And you may have noticed, SpaceX trying to send a rocket up and failing. So that's the type of thing that with the landing, failing with the landing. So that's the type of thing you could also, of course, do in a simulator with much less cost. Speaking of rockets, we also have a collaboration with the European Space Agency. So they're sending AI into the sky. So not just taking the data from the satellites and analyzing them. A lot of people are doing this. We're actually also, as Seb said, adding these data to our traffic and forecasting competitions. Looking into the properties of weather, not just for rain, but for multidimensional characterization of weather. But ESA are actually sending AI up on the satellites. So they're putting AI programs that can be reconfigured on satellites. And they're, of course, very interested in improving that. And we will be collaborating with them on these type of questions. So really, the sky's the limit, literally. And are there any more questions?
No, I would like to mention one thing, and I really like this. So coming back also to the question of the skill sets, or what should one have? If you look at the world in this way and actually see the opportunity that AI has, in reality, there is a convergence of these skill sets. So I would actually completely subscribe to what you said, David. I think problem solving and scientific mindset is what is needed. And which corner you come from? Is it from the programming side that will help scale these models? I mean, anyone who's trained models on large amounts of GPUs or TPUs or soon IPUs and gate forests or whatever, or the new stuff, it's not in its final form. So doing what we're doing at scale, so that actually you find real world solutions, but it doesn't cost the earth in terms of money or even heat emitted. I think also something we should really all dedicate more time to. And so I really, from my perspective, is anyone with any skill set and a mindset and being self-driven that can enhance that and has an interest in solving these kind of big problems is very, very welcome at IARAI.
Actually, building on this, I should say there was a mention by one of you about language modeling, and you may have followed the fallout that Google is currently experiencing in this context, trying to understand what these big language models actually do. And again, we have both resources at the Institute and the theoretical know-how with the researchers working here to look into these questions. So if you're interested in that, and if you want to explore how you could use language models, for instance, to improve understanding or to identify hidden bias and maybe help remove it, these are all opportunities that we can offer.
Perhaps for me also a warning. There could be the danger that you earn too much money, and as you know, if you earn too much money, your character is degrading and stuff like this. Be careful not to earn too much money. That could be a danger at IARAI.
Okay.
Very well. Thank you so much for your interest, and I hope we see you around. There is actually an opportunity to listen to Sepp Hochreiter discuss with people from Google Research about some of their latest work, and particularly going into the understanding of complex models tonight. That's at 7 o'clock European time, or 1 p.m. Eastern time, or I think it's 10 a.m. Pacific time.
I'm very impressed, David.
I'm sorry, I don't have the Australian times in my head. Similarly, all day tomorrow, we will have 2 special sessions regarding the traffic forecast competition. All means do join. And then there's the official NeurIPS competition track towards the end of our day. It would be great to see you there. And I hope you also contact the Institute if you're interested in working with
Absolutely. Us. And visit our booth at our virtual booth, I should say, at NeurIPS. Fantastic. Thank you very much, everyone, for attending. And Sepp, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Having had you here as well. Take care. Bye-bye.